Imagine it's 1787. Britain is bursting at the seams, literally. Prisons are overflowing and the government's got a big problem on its hands. What do you do with thousands of convicts when you can't send them to America anymore? Well, you launch one of the most important voyages in British history. This is the story of the First Fleet and how it changed Australia forever. After losing the American colonies in the War of Independence, Britain suddenly had nowhere to send its convicts. The jails were packed tight. Even old ships were turned into floating prisons. It was clear they needed a new penal colony, and fast. Enter Australia. Captain James Cook had claimed this distant land for Britain back in 1770. It was remote, barely known to Europeans, but it had one big advantage. It was far, far away. Australia's isolation made it the perfect place for a fresh start and a fresh solution to the convict problem. The British also liked its location for trade and military reasons. Cook's earlier visit to Botany Bay made it seem like a promising place to settle. So the decision was made. Australia was chosen as Britain's newest penal colony. In May 1787, 11 ships lined up at Portsmouth, England, ready for a journey halfway around the world. Leading the fleet was Captain Arthur Phillip, a practical leader with a tough job ahead. The fleet included 2 naval escorts, HMS Sirius and HMS Supply, 6 ships crowded with convicts and 3 more stuffed with supplies. That's Alexander, Charlotte, Friendship, Lady Penrhyn, Prince of Wales, Scarborough for the convict transports, and Borrowdale, Fishburn and Golden Grove carrying stores. They set off, unsure what challenges lay ahead. The journey was massive, over 24,000 kilometers, with rough seas and unpredictable weather. The first fleet stopped at Tenerife in the Canary Islands to grab fresh supplies, then crossed the Atlantic to Rio de Janeiro for repairs and more food. After that, they sailed on to Cape Town, South Africa, to pick up livestock and stock up for the last toughest stretch. Altogether, the trip took more than 250 days, almost 9 months at sea. So who was actually on board? Around 1,400 people braved the journey. Most were convicts, about 780 in all, with a mix of men, women and even children. The rest included Royal Marines, officers, sailors and a handful of settlers. Life on board was rough. Space was tight, food wasn't great and disease was common, but against the odds, most survived the long trip. Land was finally sighted in mid-January 1788. The first fleet arrived at Botany Bay, but things weren't as perfect as they'd hoped. The soil was poor and fresh water was hard to find. Captain Phillip decided to move the fleet north to Port Jackson, landing on January 26, 1788. That day is now remembered across Australia as Australia Day. The first fleet's arrival was the start of something huge, the beginning of British colonisation. But it wasn't just a new chapter for Britain. For Australia's First Nations people, it marked the loss of land, culture and independence, changes that still matter today. It's important to remember every part of this story and respect the people whose lives were forever altered. The First Fleet, 1787 to 1788. There's so much more to learn about early Australia and the people who lived through it. If you enjoyed this journey, hit subscribe, give this video a like, and let's keep exploring history together.